بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا. اللهم زدنا علما إنك أنت عليم الحكيم. اللهم اجعل هذه محاضرة حجة لنا لا حجة علينا يا رب العالمين. أما بعد. In continuation of our class on Umdat al-Ahkam, we finished on hadith number 13. We're picking up on hadith 14 today. In actuality, both of them are similar. To 13 and 14 are similar. So we'll read that one. We'll go through 13 and 14 again. Just go through them briefly, inshallah, and then we'll move on to the next one. عن عبد الله بن عباس رضي الله تعالى عنهما قال جاء رجل إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال يا رسول الله إن أمي ماتت وعليها صوم الشهر أفأقضيه عنها فقال لو كان على أمك دين أكنت قاضيه عنها قال نعم قال فدين الله أحق أن يقضى. That's the first hadith. He says that, narrated Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhuma qala. He said, a man came to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and he said, O Messenger of Allah, indeed my mother has passed away. My mother has passed away. Wa alayha som shahar. She passed away, and she had to fast for a whole month. 14. Actually, that's 13. He said that she didn't fast for an entire month. So some people will say, what fast is she talking about? The fast of the month of Ramadan, or other than that? And so the second hadith explains the first hadith. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَأَقْدِيهِ عَنْهَا. Or he said, I'm sorry, not the Prophet ﷺ. The man said, فَأَقْدِيهِ عَنْهَا. He said, do I fast for my mother because she passed away and she didn't complete a fast that she was supposed to fast? So the Prophet ﷺ, he showed the permissibility of using in Islam something called al-qiyas, which is analytical deduction. And so the Prophet ﷺ, he compared her missing her fast to a person if they had a debt. He said, if your mother passed and she had a debt, would you not pay that debt for your mother? And he said, Naam. The man said, yes. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said that the debts of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have more of a right to be paid. Now the next narration, it says, جاءت امرأة إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقالت. A woman came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, Inna ummi matat. So in the first hadith, it said a man came to the Prophet ﷺ. In this hadith, it says a woman came to the Prophet ﷺ, and both of them had similar situations. She said, Inna ummi matat wa alayha sawmun nadar. He said, my mother passed away, and she was owed a fast. She didn't fast another fast. What is another? What is another? You make an oath. Meaning, if something happens, I swear I'm going to do an act of worship because of, for example, if I get this new job, I'm going to fast for 5 days. This is called another. So the woman, she said, Afa asumu anha. She said, should I fast for my mother? Faqala. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Ara'ayti law kana ala ummiki daynun faqadaytihi. He said, if your mother had a debt, would you pay the debt? Akana dhalika yuaddi anha? Qalat na'am. He said, if your mother had a debt, would you pay her debt? She said, yes. قال فصومي عن أمك. He said, then fast on behalf of your mother so that she can get those, what she was supposed to fast. Now, in the last class, we mentioned about the importance of fulfilling our oaths if we make them. And we also mentioned the narration of Umar ibn Khattab when he said that he made another or an oath in Jahiliyyah, meaning before Islam. And he asked the Prophet ﷺ, if there was an oath that a person made before Islam, do you still have to fulfill it even once a person becomes Muslim? And he said, yes. He said, yes, that you are to fulfill your debt or fulfill your oath. And the next hadith, on Sahal ibn Sa'd al-Sa'idi. Now, we covered these ahadith last week because I remember this. And we mentioned that Sahal was from the last companions to pass away. And he died, he was 88 years of age. I'm just going to read this hadith really quick before we get into the hadith that we were supposed to cover. This hadith, it says, أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا يزال الناس بخير ما عجلوا الفطر. He said that people are going to always be upon goodness as long as they speed up breaking their fast. يعني الفطور. الفطور meaning iftar. Right? So that, in other words, when it's time to break your fast, we don't delay it. We don't say, all right, it's Maghrib, I'm just going to wait. Maybe I'll break my fast in Isha. So and this is very important to understand this hadith because the next hadith we cover, it's going to be a little different. It says, أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا يزال الناس بخير ما عجلوا الفطر. The people will remain upon goodness as long as they're quick to break their fast. They're quick to break their fast. Yes. The adhan of Maghrib. The adhan of Maghrib. Salatul Maghrib. So like if you're fasting during the day and once the sun sets and then you hear the adhan for Maghrib, that's when you break your fast. Okay? Understood? Like. Yes. So the one we're about to go over now is for today. Is it 16?
Yeah, because 15 is the one where he says the people will remain on the right. That's just 15. We don't have the.
He's printed out now, inshallah. Did anybody have it? You have it? The next hadith? إذا أقبل الليل منها هنا وأدبر النهار منها هنا فقد أفطر الصائم. This hadith عن عمر ibn Khattab رضي الله تعالى عنه, he said, the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام said, إذا أقبل الليل منها هنا, meaning when the night leaves, when the night comes in and the day leaves. Basically when Maghrib comes in. When it's time for Maghrib, he says, فَقَدْ أَفْطَرَ الصَّائِمُ. He said that when that happens, the one that is fasting has broke his fast. All right. So, when you look at this hadith, there are two ways to understand this hadith. The ulama the scholars of Islam, they understand two things from this hadith. If you read the hadith in English, I don't know what it says. It says, when night falls from this side and the day vanishes from this side and the sun sets, and the fasting person should break his fast. So the translator who translated this, he gave one position. The fasting person should break his fast. Like, we're going to mention two of the positions of the scholars as it relates to this particular hadith and the wording at the end of it. It says, فَقَدْ أَفْطَرَ الصَّائِمُ. If a person, linguistically, if you read it, it means that the fasting person has broken his fast. So a person would understand from that, if Maghrib comes in, and even if you don't eat, then you essentially broke your fast by the wording of the hadith. فَقَدْ أَفْطَرَ الصَّائِمِ. The one that is fasting has broke his fast. Another position is no. When Maghrib comes in, it's halal, permissible for you to break your fast at that time. That is probably the preferred position as it relates to this particular hadith. As some of the scholars say, لو كان المراد فقد صار مفطرا كان فطر جميع الصوام واحدا لم يكن للترغيب في التعجيل الإفطار معنى. One of the scholars said, if this hadith means that as soon as Maghrib comes in, then our fast is automatically broken, then what meaning would it give to the hadith that came before it? Meaning what the Prophet ﷺ said, rush to break your fast. Well, if Maghrib comes in and I automatically broke my fast, then what meaning would it have to that previous hadith? Did that make sense? Did I lose anybody? No mumtaz, no problem. No problem. No, I heard her. All right, no problem. Let's go over it. Look at the previous hadith. The previous hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he said that people are going to remain upon goodness as long as they rush to break their fast. So they're saying, with this hadith right here, it says as soon as Maghrib comes in, فَقَدْ أَفْطَرَ الصَّائِمُ. If Maghrib comes in and you automatically break your fast, then how am I rushing to break my fast if I already broke it if Maghrib came in? Did that make sense? Again. So there's two hadith here, right? The first hadith, it says that we will remain upon goodness as long as we rush to break our fast. Well, how do we break our fast? Water, food, something to drink, etc. Right? So that other hadith saying, as soon as Maghrib comes in, you rush, you eat a date, drink some water, eat some food. We understand that to mean we're breaking our fast, right? Right? Tight. The next hadith, it says, as soon as the night comes in, the fasting person breaks his fast. So the person asking a question is saying, he can't print out the hadith. He could have just said that. I don't know. I got to get a whole note for it, but... So, the first hadith, it says that if it is Maghrib, we rush to break our fast, meaning we rush to drink some water, eat dates, etc., so that we can break our fast. The hadith that we just read, this hadith says that as soon as Maghrib comes in, فَقَدْ أَفْطَرَ الصَّائِمُ. As soon as Maghrib enters, the fasting person automatically broke their fast. That's one position. If you take the position that as soon as Maghrib comes in, your fast is automatically broken, then what meaning would it have for us to speed up and break our fast? I'm not making sense.
Is there a difference? That's what I'm saying. It's not like the same thing. It's not like it's saying like what's the same?
Again, pay attention. Hopefully I'll make more sense this time. I know I said it like 4 times, maybe 5 is going to get it. Listen what I'm saying. The hadith says, لا يزال الناس بخير ما عجلوا الفطور. People will remain upon goodness as long as they rush to break their fast. What does rushing to break your fast mean? What does that look like? Huh? Eating water or drink. So right now, so let's have an example. Right now you're sitting down, you're in your home, you got your date, your water, whatever else you have, right? You're waiting, you're looking at your clock, you're waiting for Maghrib to come in. You hear the adhan, the mu'adhan, Allahu Akbar. Now you're rushing. According to this hadith, you rush to break your fast. If you do that, then you're upon what? Goodness, right? When the Prophet ﷺ says ajjalul futur, he's saying rush to break your fast. Are you required? Are you being requested to perform some type of action? Yes or no? What action are you doing? You're eating and drinking, right? So then that hadith means that you are required to perform an action. What is that action? Eating and drinking to break your fast, right? Mumtaz. The next hadith. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, when the day leaves and the night enters, فَقَدْ أَفْطَرَ الصَّائِمُ. As soon as the night comes in, then a person that is fasting automatically broke their fast. If we take this meaning that as soon as Maghrib comes in, you automatically broke your fast, it didn't require what from you? It didn't require eating or drinking. So listen, so one hadith is saying you have to eat and drink, and the other hadith says you don't have to do nothing. As soon as Maghrib comes in, you automatically broke your fast. Do you guys see the difference? All right. So the scholars of Islam take two positions on that second hadith. One of them say, as soon as Maghrib comes in, you automatically broke your fast. This is a position that some of the scholars hold. The other position, it says no. It means that as soon as Maghrib comes in, it's halal for you to break your fast. Meaning it's permissible for you to break your fast. Is that clear? Or did I lose anybody? Make sense? All right. Now, the ones that hold the position and say that it could only mean that it becomes halal for you to break your fast, they're saying because if it meant you actually break your fast as soon as Maghrib comes in, then what's the benefit of the hadith before it? Where it says you have to rush. You have to rush to break your fast. That's all they're saying. Make sense? Right. Mumtaz. So then what it means is, essentially, is that once the sun sets, now it's time to break your fast. It's time to rush and break your fast. Right. Now we're going to get into another part. Before we go into this, there's a statement called al-wisal, or a word called al-wisal. Does anyone know what that means? Al-wisal. All right. We're going to learn that now, inshallah. Does anyone have the hadith with them? Huh? The Arabic or English? Wow. Sad Alif Lam. عن عبد الله بن عمر رضي الله تعالى عنهما قال نهى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن الوصال قالوا إنك تواصل فقال إني لست مثلكم إني أطعم وأسقى رواه عائشة وأنس ابن مالك ولمسلم عن أبي سعيد الخدري رضي الله تعالى عنهم فأيكم أراد أن يواصل فليواصل إلى السحر. طيب. This hadith was reported from Abdullah ibn Umar رضي الله تعالى عنهما. He said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam forbade, made it impermissible, according to this hadith. Naha Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam an al-wisal. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he said it was impermissible for you to do al-wisal. What is wisal? Al-wisal is to delay breaking your fast for 2 days. What does that mean? For example, we start fasting today. As soon as the next day comes, like as soon as later on that day, Maghrib comes, I don't break my fast. I'm going to continue to fast for 2 days straight without breaking my fast. All right? The Prophet ﷺ used to do this. So the Prophet ﷺ told the companions not to do this. So they said, قالوا, they said, إِنَّكَ تُوَاصِلُ. They said, oh, Messenger of Allah, you do it. You fast continuous days. In other words, why can't we if you could do it? The ulama say this shows that the Sharia, whatever has been made permissible for the Prophet ﷺ, is also permissible for us unless there is an exemption made or an exception made. Does that make sense? And this right here, this hadith shows that there's an exception, that this is only for the Prophet ﷺ, not for us. So they said, Innaka tawasa. They said, O Messenger of Allah, you do it. You fast 2 consecutive days or more. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Inni lastu mithlakum. He said, I'm not like you. Inni ut'am wa usqa. That I am given food and drink by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're not. Understood? The next part is hadith. The part from Sa'id al-Khudri radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He said, فَأَيُّكُمْ أَرَادَ أَنْ يُوَاصِلْ فَيُوَاصِلْ إِلَى السَّحَرِ. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, if any of you want to do al-wasil, meaning you want to fast continuously, then you can only do it up until sahar, meaning up until the morning right before fajr where people eat sahur. Meaning you can only do it. So let's say, for example, you're like, you know what? I'm fasted all day today. My fast was easy. I want to make it. I want to do some more. I don't want to break my fast at Maghrib. Then you can wait all the way up until the time for suhoor to break your fast then. That makes sense? So then if a person says, no, I want to practice this hadith, then they will practice a hadith by breaking their fast at suhoor. But in tabi, pay attention. If you oversleep and miss suhoor, then you'll fall into this prohibition. If you miss suhoor, then you'll fall into the prohibition. Some of the ulama say that this prohibition means that it is haram for you to do, and some say that it's just hated. But, khuruj min al-khilaf, staying away from the differences of opinion, it's better to stay away from it unless you know that if you're going to do it, make sure you're up for suhoor and break your fast. Like, Mumtaz. So he said, is there a benefit in making the wisal? Is there a benefit? The benefit would be you're following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And Nabi ﷺ said, if you're going to do it up until this time.
So how does that intertwine with the previous hadith?
Mumtaz. He said, how does that relate to the previous ahadith? Some of the ulama say even though wisal is not recommended at all. Some of them say it's not recommended at all. Based on the previous ahadith that were mentioned. The previous ahadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, rush to break your fast. This hadith shows that the Prophet ﷺ is not like us. So he was doing more. So the companions saw that. So ultimately they wanted to do what? They wanted to follow him. They wanted to be like the Prophet ﷺ and also practice al-wisal. So he told them, if you want to, then you only could do it up to sahar. So some of the scholars say that doing wisal is not recommended to do based on all the other narrations of hadith. And some of the ulama say doing a wisal is okay because the Prophet ﷺ did it as well. Yes. So wisal is in Ramadan. Yeah, the understanding here that it was in Ramadan. And Allah knows best. Right. The next hadith. So we enter into another part. This is called the chapter of the best form of fasting. The best fast. And right now we're talking about outside of Ramadan. The first hadith, عن عبد الله بن عمر ابن العاص رضي الله تعالى عنهما قال أخبر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أني أقول والله لأصومن النهار. So in this hadith, a man came to the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام. And the good thing about this is that during the time of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, when people had questions, they went straight to the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام. There's no, I'm not going to go to this one or that one or that one. I'm going to go to the one who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen to be our messenger. So they went to the Prophet ﷺ. It doesn't mention the man's name. But when he saw the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Wallahi, he swore by Allah, La asumanna nahar. He said, I swear by Allah, I'm going to fast all day. Wala akumanna layl ma ishtu. He said, I'm going to fast every day, and I'm going to stand every night in prayer until I die. The man said he swore by Allah, I'm going to fast every day, and I'm going to stand in the night prayer every day until I die. فَقُلْتُ لَهُ قَدْ قُلْتُهُ بِي. So the Prophet ﷺ said, are you the one that said this? When the Prophet ﷺ heard this, he said to the man, are you the one who actually said this, that you're going to do this? So the man said, Bi abi anta wa ummi. He said, I swear by, he said, I give my mother and my father for you. This is why I'm saying this. Like, I'm serious. I'm going to stand on this. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَإِنَّكَ لَا تَسْتَطِيعُ ذَلِكَ. He said, you are not able to do that. So the Prophet ﷺ, he told him, you're not going to be able to do that. So the next thing he's going to do is give him an alternative. He's going to give him something else that he can do if that's how you want to live. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَصُمْ وَأَفْطِرْ وَنَمْ وَقُمْ. He said, fast, break your fast, sleep, and stand for prayer. And then he says, وَصُمْ مِنَ الشَّهَرِ ثَلَاثَةِ أَيَّامٍ. He said to the man, then fast 3 days out of the month. And then he said, فَإِنَّ الْحَسَنَةَ بِعَشَرِ أَمْثَالِهَا. He said, for indeed a good deed is multiplied up to 10 times. For indeed a good deed is multiplied up to 10 times. And he said, وَذَلِكَ مِثْلُ الصِّيَامِ الدَّهَرِ. He said, and that type of fast is as if you fast all the time, meaning all day long, all the time. So some ulama, they mention, some say that the first thing the Prophet ﷺ mentioned is the best form of fasting. But then some say no, rather the last form that he gives him is the best. Some of the scholars differ about that. So then the man said to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, فَقُلْتُ إِنِّي أُطِيقُ أَفْضَلَ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. He said to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, I'm able to do more than that. I'm able to do more than that. So the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, okay, if you can do more than that, then here's more fasting you could do. قَالَ فَصُمْ يَوْمًا وَأَفْطِرْ يَوْمَيْنِ. He said, okay, fast 1 day and don't fast for 2 days. The man said, قُلْتُ إِنِّي أُطِيقُ أَفْضَلَ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. He said, O Messenger of Allah, I'm able to do more than that. That's nothing for me. I could do more than that. فَقَالَ فَصُمْ يَوْمًا وَأَفْطِرُ يَوْمًا. He said, okay, fast 1 day and break your fast the next day. He says, فَذَلِكَ السِّيَامُ دَاوُودَ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامُ. He said, this is the fast of the Prophet Dawood alayhi salam. وَهُوَ أَفْضَلُ الصِّيَامِ. And this is the best fast. فَقُلْتُ إِنِّي أُطِيقُ أَكْثَرُ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. And then he said to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, I'm able to do more than that. فَقَالَ النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ لَا أَفْضَلَ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. He said, there's nothing better than that. وَفِي رِوَايَةٍ, and in another narration, لَا صَوْمَ فَوْقَ صَوْمِ دَاوُودَ شَطْرُ الظَّهَرِ صُمْ يَوْمًا وَأَفْطِرُ يَوْمًا. He said that there's no fast better than the fast of Dawood. Fast 1 day and break your fast the next day. طيب. The ulama, why do some of the ulama say then that the first fast, fasting 3 days out of every month, is better than the fast of Dawood? Where the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned in this hadith that the best fast is the fast of Dawood. So then why would some of the scholars say anything other than that? Mumtaz. So that's a good one. Some of the ulama say because the 3 days out of every month is something that may be easily consistent for a person to continue. Some of them also say that fasting 3 days out of the month, 3 days out of the month may be better because you don't fast on days you're not supposed to fast on. For example, as we continue, we're going to learn that fasting Yom al-Jum'ah by itself is not permissible, or fasting Saturday by itself is not permissible. There are certain days you shouldn't fast. What if the Eid fell on the day that you're supposed to fast? You're fasting every other day. What if the day of the Eid fall on it? Then it's also impermissible to fast on the Eid. So some of the ulama say that fasting 3 days out of the month is better than fasting a Soma Dawood because you put yourself in position to fast on prohibited days. Allahu Alam. Yes.
So you say this even though I'm considering the fasting on Mondays and Thursdays and the 3 white days.
Say that again.
So they saying this with bearing in mind the fasting on Mondays and Thursdays and the 3 white days.
No, they're just saying in period. The Siyam Dawood is every other day. Has nothing to do with the 3 days, because now it's either 3 days or the fast of Dawood.
Right, so are they saying between the fasting of Dawood and just 3 days in general? Is that what they're saying? They're saying between the 3 days.
Right now we're talking about this hadith.
Right, but I'm saying
This hadith don't mention nothing about fasting Mondays, Thursdays.
no, it's saying that between the fast of Dawood and then fasting 3 days as it's going to be multiplied. In the beginning it says the Prophet said fast 3 days of the month.
Right.
They're saying between that and the fasting of Dawood, some scholars say that the 3 days is better.
Yes. Mumtaz. So let me mention it again. Some of the ulama say that fasting the 3 days out of every month is better than fasting the Siyam al-Dawood, which is every other day. The ones that say that it's better is because you're going to eventually fall on a day that you shouldn't be fasting. You're going to fast on the day you shouldn't be fasting. Whereas with the 3 days, you can fast your 3 days out of every month, however way you want to do it. Which brings us to our next hadith. The next hadith. وعنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن أحب الصيام إلى الله صيام داود. Now, in this hadith, it also mentioned the most beloved fast to Allah is the fast of Dawood. So that's contrary to what some of the other scholars mentioned. He says, وَأَحَبُّ الصَّلَاةِ إِلَى اللَّهِ صَلَاةُ دَاوُودَ كَانَ يَنَامُ نِصْفَ اللَّيْلِ وَيَقُومُ ثُلُثَهُ وَيَنَامُ سُدُسَهُ وَكَانَ يَصُومُ يَوْمًا وَيُفْطِرُ يَوْمًا. Is that the next hadith you have? Okay. So in this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he said that the most beloved fast is the fast of Dawood. If we just take it on what it means here, it says that a Siyam Dawood, this is the Prophet ﷺ, أكثر ما يكون محبوبا. They said that this is most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In this particular hadith, you're going to give a number of ways, a number of things that we can do, or actions that are beloved to Allah. The first one starts off with the fast of Dawood. The best salat that a person could do, ahabbu salat ilallahi salatu Dawood. What is the prayer of the Prophet Dawood? Now they're going to explain it. Kana yanamu nisfa layl. So I need everybody to think about this for a second. Let's assume that the night has 6 hours. Because we don't have a lot of math. How many mathematicians we have here? Anybody good at math? You? You look like you are. So let's say the night is only 6 hours. And I'm just using this hypothetically. I don't even say the brother said the night is only 6 hours. No. Hypothetically speaking, let's assume that the night only has 6 hours. When we include the night, we also include Maghrib with Isha, not Isha. So from Maghrib to Fajr is only 6 hours. Let's assume that. Example. The Salatul Dawood, what is it? The prayer of the Prophet Dawood, what is it? Kana yanamu nisful layl. So let's assume that you're traveling, because I want to make this very clear so there's no confusion. Let's say you're traveling. Maghrib comes in, you're going to combine Maghrib and Isha. Mumtaz? You're going to combine Maghrib and Isha because you're traveling, not because you're in the house. You're traveling. All right. Kana yanamu nisfal layl. So the Prophet Dawood, he would sleep for half of the night. Well, if it's only 6 hours in a night, how many hours would he sleep? Huh? 3. So then he would sleep for half the night, وَيَقُومُ ثُلُثًا. He would stand for 1/3 of the night. 1/3 of the night, how much would that be? 2 hours. That's good, I like that. So then he would sleep for 3 hours. He would stand in prayer for 2 hours. وَيَنَامُ سُدُوسًا. How much is 1/6? 1 hour. He would sleep 1 hour. Right. وَكَانَ يَصُومُ يَوْمًا وَيَفْطِرُ يَوْمًا. And he would fast one day and break his fast the next. This here is considered the prayer of the Prophet Dawood. Does that make sense? Right. Some of the scholars say, why would he stand in prayer in the last third? Why would he sleep half and then get up for the last third? Anybody know why he would stay in the last third? Mumtaz. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ayn al-sa'il. Where's the person asking from Allah in the last third of the night? Wa ayn al-mustaghfirin. And we're the ones that are seeking forgiveness in the last third of the night. We're the ones seeking forgiveness in the last third of the night. Are you printing it out? Alhamdulillah. That's enough for everyone? طيب. So here it says al-maqsood min hadha hadith. The intent from that hadith is ثبوت أفضلية الصوم يوم وفطر يوم على بقية صيام التطوع. So another benefit of this hadith is to show that the fasting one day and making iftar the next day after that shows that that's the best fast out of all the fasts, even though some of the scholars differ. But the wording of the hadith and everything that we can find from the hadith shows that that is the hadith, or that is the preferred fasting that is considered the best. طيب. The next hadith. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال أوصاني خليلي بثلاث. Abu Huraira رضي الله تعالى عنه, he said Khalil. The word Khalil means my close friend. You ever hear people say a person's on the deen of their friend? You heard this hadith before? أمر على دين خليلي فينظر إلى من يخالل. The Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam said a person's on the deen of their friend, for look to the person that you are a companion with. Does that make sense? All right. If I don't know you, or he doesn't know you, people want to find what type of person are you? They're going to look for who's your close friends, because you're going to be like them. You're going to be similar to the people you're with. Did that make sense? Or no? All right. No, that's okay. Say, for example, you know him? You do? You don't know him like that? He's like, I don't know him like that. I don't want you to, but wait, why you say you don't know him like that? Because you don't know what he into. And you don't want me to link you with him, right? Basically. Don't let, it's real life. It's real life. So here's the reality, right? If this was your man, you knew him forever. Like, y'all go way back. That's your day one. You with him every day. Is it safe to say how you are, you're going to be similar to him? Yeah, for the most part. Otherwise, you wouldn't hang with him. You hang with somebody you don't mess with? You gonna call somebody a close friend of yours, but you don't deal with them on no level? Exactly. So then the hadith mentions that a person, a maru ala dina Abu Hurairah, with three things. Siyam thalathati ayam min kulli shahar. He said he advised him to fast 3 days out of every month. He advised him to fast 3 days out of every month. Wa rak'atay duha, and to pray 2 raka'at for salatul duha. Wa an utira qabla an anam, and that you pray witr prayer before you go to sleep. These are the 3 things that the Prophet ﷺ advised Abu Hurairah with. Question. Fasting 3 days out of every month. We're going to talk about that, what those days could be, right? The second thing is rak'atay duha. What is duha? Does anyone know what that is? Has anyone ever heard of duha prayer? Yes or no? Anyone never heard of it before? Cool, no problem. We're going to talk about that as we continue with this hadith. And how many people ever heard of salatul witr? Witr prayer? Huh? Good. So then we're going to learn what those things are from this hadith today, inshallah ta'ala. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم صيام 3 أيام من كل شهر صيام الظهر. If a person fasts 3 days out of every month, as if he fasted all the time. Some people say that these 3 days out of every month should be أيام البيض, the white days. Why do they call them the white days? Mumtaz, because it's a full moon. Because those days the night is light. Have you ever seen certain days at nighttime the night is lit up? But there's no lights out, but it's lit up because of the moon. These are called the white days. Well, what days are those anyway? Mumtaz. The 13th, the 14th, and the 15th of every month are considered the white days. Next question. What month are we in right now? What month is this? March. So that means March 13th, 14th, and 15th, right? So, is that what you think?
No, we talking about that's American stuff.
Mumtaz. So then we're talking about what? The Islamic calendar. So in the Islamic calendar, we're in the month of Rajab, right? Sha'ban. Mumtaz. So in the month of Sha'ban, it would have been the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th. What date are we in right now in Sha'ban? 24th. 23rd, 24th. Right? So that means Ramadan, inshallah ta'ala, is about 6-7 days away. Inshallah. Allahumma ballagna Ramadan. Ameen. So then, the white days are the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th. طيب. The next part of the hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ mentioned about the 3 days that we fast, وَحَاصَ مِنْ ذَلِكَ أَقْوَالٍ. So there's a difference of opinion as it relates to the 3 days. Some of them say that the 3 days are أيام من الشهر غير معينة. Some say that it's recommended any 3 days out of the month. It doesn't necessarily have to be the white days. It could be any 3 days out of the month. Rather, the mu'tamid in the madhab, the most relied upon position of Imam Ahmed, it says that those 3 days of every month are better, and it's afdal kunha ayam al-bayd. However, it's preferable that they are the white days, but they say they could be any days of the month, any 3 days out of every month. And inshallah ta'ala, that could be something that maybe after Ramadan, if you don't do it already, something you could strive to do. Now pay attention. Abu Hurairah said, Awsani Khalili. He said that my friend, my close friend advised me. His close friend happened to be the Prophet ﷺ. He gave him good advice. He said that fast 3 days out of every month. And then he says, رَكْعَتَانْ أَقَلُّ صَلَاةُ الضُّحَى. What is Salatul Duha? Mumtaz. So, Salatul Duha is when the sun rises up until the time for Salatul Dhuhr. That whole morning, there's a prayer that can be prayed during that time, and it's called Salatul Duha. Question: when is the best time to pray Salatul Duha? When is the best time to pray Salatul Duha? Okay. Right. Salatul Duha, as the ulama mentioned, is best to pray Salatul Duha closer to Salatul Dhuhr. Closer to Salatul Dhuhr. And they call that Salat Salatul Awabin. Awabin means the Salatul Duha. That's the name for it. Salatul Duha Sunnah. Salatul Duha Sunnah. The least amount of raka'at you can pray for Salatul Duha is 2. The least amount you can pray Salatul Duha is 2. However, it says, وَأَفْضَلْ إِلَى اشْتَدَّ حَرْ وَأَكْثَرُهَا ثَمَانٍ. That Salatul Duha is preferably prayed when it gets hotter during the day. So not closer to the morning, but closer to Salatul Dhuhr. Yes. What's that? Duha? No. Dhuhr prayer is after in the afternoon. We'll talk about that later. I'll talk to you after class, inshallah. Okay? Aktharuha thaman. The highest number of raka'at you can pray for Salatul Duha is 8. Is 8. لأن هاني روت أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى 8 ركعات يوم الفتح ضحى. She said that the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, he prayed 8 raka'at on the day when they conquered Mecca. يوم الفتح ضحى, يعني for Salatul Duha. However, some of the ulama say, no, it's not that. Some say the best, aqalluha, the least amount is 2. And in some narrations is 8. However, Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyyah, from the students of Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, he said the salat that Hani is talking about, bisabab fath. She said that the Prophet he said that the Prophet ﷺ prayed 8, showing gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for them being able to conquer Mecca. Another narration said that the most a person could pray for Salatul Duha is 12 rak'at. It's 12 rak'at. And they say that this is due to the actions فعلها بعد الزوال وقال وإن أخرها. Like, some of them say that the most you can do is 12 rak'at. So then we have narrations anywhere from 2 to 8 to 12. However, there's no difference of opinion on 2. There's no difference of opinion on 2. The question is, well, why would we mention 8 or 12? It's very possible you could be somewhere and ask a brother or sister, what are you doing? They might say, I'm praying 6 because I read a narration. And, you know, the reason why we mention these things sometimes is to prevent us from being hasty. When we see other Muslims doing things that are not familiar to us, then sometimes we become very judgmental and we assume that they are not following the prophetic sunnah. So we have to be very cautious when it comes to speaking about things that we may not have all of the details concerning it. The next hadith. عن محمد ابن عباد ابن جعفر رضي الله تعالى عنه قال سألت جابر بن عبد الله رضي الله تعالى عنهما أنهى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عن صوم يوم الجمعة قال نعم وزاد مسلم ورب الكعبة. In this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ was asked about, or rather they asked the Prophet ﷺ about fasting on Yawmul Jum'ah. Is it permissible to fast on Yawmul Jum'ah? Or I'm sorry, did the Prophet ﷺ prevent us from fasting on Yawmul Jum'ah? And he said, yes, he did. And in the narration of Sahih Muslim, it says, وَرَبِّ الْكَعْبَةِ, meaning they swear by the Kaaba that it is not permissible to fast on Yawmul Jum'ah. When they say fasting on Yawmul Jum'ah, what do they mean? Singling Yawmul Jum'ah out by itself to fast. It says in the Sahih Ibn Khuzaymah, in the Yawmul Jum'ah, Yawmul Eid. This is because Yawmul Jum'ah, the day of Jum'ah, is the day of the Eid. Every Friday, Jum'ah Friday, is the Eid Usbu'i, meaning it's the weekly Eid or weekly celebration for the Muslim. فَلَا تَجْعَلُوا يَوْمَ عِيدِكُمْ يَوْمَ صِيَامِكُمْ إِلَّا أَن تَصُومُوا قَبْلَهُ أَوْ بَعْدَهُ. In this narration of Ibn Khuzaymah, it mentions what the Prophet ﷺ, he said, لَا تَجْعَلُوا يَوْمَ عِيدِكُمْ يَوْمَ صِيَامِكُمْ. Do not make your day of celebration a day that you fast on. Do not make a day of celebration a day that you fast on. Meaning, every Friday, Yawmul Jum'ah is a day of celebration. That means we should not single that day out in fasting. He said, unless you fast the day before it or the day after. Meaning, if I'm going to fast on Friday, then I should fast Thursday and Friday. Or I should fast Friday and Saturday. Well, how can they? Does that make sense? Yes. I'm sorry? Shuf. Mumtaz. Let's say, for example, your daughter has days to make up from the previous year that she didn't make up. How many days does she have to make up?
At the time we was having a discussion, she had like 3 days.
She had 3 days. Play. If she had 3 days left and it's 3 days before Ramadan, or let's say she had 1 day left and she had to fast on a Friday, in that case, it would have become obligatory for her to fast on those days out of necessity. Right? But if she has 3 days, if she wanted to fast Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, that's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or wahakadha. Like that. Did that make sense? Right. The next one, or another benefit we can get from this hadith, it says, وَعَنْ أُمَّ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ جُوَيْرِيَ بِنْتْ حَارِث الحارث رضي الله تعالى عنها أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم دخل عليها يوم الجمعة وهي صائمة. Now here, the Prophet ﷺ, he entered upon his wife and he said to her on the day of Friday, and وهي صائمة, and his wife was fasting. فقال أصمت أمس, he said to his wife, did you fast yesterday? قالت لا, she said no. طيب. قال أتريدين أن تصومي غدا, he said, do you intend on fasting tomorrow? قالت لا, she said no. قال فأفطري رواه البخاري وأبي داود Abu Dawud. He said, if you don't intend on fasting tomorrow, but you're fasting today, then break your fast. He told his wife, break your fast. She didn't argue with him either. She just broke her fast. I'm just saying. طيب. Another narration. طيب. قال علماؤنا يقرأ أن يتعمد إفراد يوم الجمعة بصوم. So they said some of our scholars would hate for a person to single out Yom al-Jum'ah with a day of fasting. Next hadith. If we look at the hadith we just mentioned about Juwayriya, the Prophet ﷺ asked her, did you fast yesterday? Her answer was what? No. He said, are you fasting tomorrow? Meaning it would have been Saturday. And she said what? No. So here the ulama, they mention, لو جمع بين الجمعة والسبت في الصوم زالت الكراهة فقال أي موضع إذا ضمنت به بين مكروهين زالت الكراهة. So there's 2 days that is hated to fast individually. One is Friday and the other is what? Saturday. However, if they both come together, then it's okay. So they say, what other day, 2 hated days to fast, that if you bring them together, it becomes permissible? That's it. They were just making a point. It's hated to fast both days individually, but if you bring both of the hated days to fast together, then it becomes permissible. I'm sorry?
Why not Saturday?
Well, the question would have been, well, why not Friday too? Because Eid. Mumtaz. Why not Saturday? Allahu Alam. Ta'abudi. I don't know. The last hadith, this is the last hadith we're going to cover today, inshallah. It says, عن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول لا يصومن أحدكم يوم الجمعة إلا أن يصوم يوما قبله أو يوما بعده. In this narration of Abu Hurairah رضي الله تعالى عنه, he said, I heard the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam say, لا يصومن أحدكم يوم الجمعة. He swore that you should not fast Yawm al-Jum'ah. And he says, إلا أن يصوم, except that you fast a day before it or a day after it. A day before it or a day after it. طيب. And we have a narration from Ibn Hazm al-Zahiri in his book called Al-Muhalla. Anybody that looked through different books of fiqh, it's a book called Al-Muhalla. He says, Yahramu siyam. Now he says it's haram to fast Yawm al-Jum'ah unless you fast a day before or a day after it, or wafaqa adatuhu, or if this is something that a person usually does. Like, we're going to stop with that, inshallah ta'ala. And I wanted to mention, last week you asked a question. It was you, right? I'm about to tell you. You were asking a question about being intimate with your wife during the daytime of Ramadan as soon as they call the adhan. It wasn't you? All right, well, I'm not going to talk about it. I thought it was you. Because the one with the glasses.
He had on like yellow or something. He was like, it wasn't me though.
I'm going to mention it anyway. Like, this is just like some extra information about it. And I'm going to read what some of the scholars said about that issue. It says, وَإِذَا كَانَ الْمُؤَذِّنُ يُؤَذِّنُ مَعَ طُلُوعِ الْفَجْرِ. So if the mu'adhin, he calls the adhan when Fajr comes in. فَالْوَاجِبُ الْإِمْسَاكَ عَنَ الْمُفَطَّرَاتِ مِنَ طُلُوعِ الْفَجْرِ إِلَى غُرُوبِ الشَّمْسِ. It becomes wajib for us to stay away from them things that will break or nullify our fast. فَإِذَا قَالَ الْمُؤَذِّنُ اللَّهُ أَكْبَرُ. If the mu'adhin says Allahu Akbar, لَزِمَ كَفُّ عَنَ الطَّعَامِ وَالشَّرَابِ وَالْجِمَاعِ وَالسَّائِرِ مُفَطِّرَاتِ. That if the mu'adhin says Allahu Akbar, then we are to refrain from eating, drinking, and intercourse or any other form or thing that will break our fast. قال النووي رحمه الله تعالى. Imam al-Nawawi, he has the explanation of Sahih Muslim. He says, إذا طلع الفجر وفي فيه طعام فليحفظه. He says that if Fajr comes and he has in his mouth food, he should spit it out. This is Imam al-Nawawi, this is his position. If they call Fajr, they call the adhan, and it's time for Fajr, and it's the morning of fasting, we're supposed to be fasting, he said that a person should spit the food out. فَإِن لَفَظَهُ صَحَّ صَوْمَهُ. If he spits it out, then his fast becomes correct. فَإِنْ ابْتَلَعَهُ أَفْطَرَ. If he swallows it, then it breaks his fast. Right. He says, وَلَوْ طَلَعَ الفَّجْرُ وَهُوَ مُجَامِعٌ. If Fajr comes in and they're having intercourse with his spouse, فَنَزِعَ فِي الْحَالِ صَحَّ الصَّوْمُ. If Fajr comes in, Allahu Akbar, and he's having intercourse with his wife, if he stops right then and there, صَحَّ الصَّوْمُ, then his fast will be correct. أما إذا طلع الفجر وهو مجامع فعلم طلوعه ثم مكث مستديما للجماع فيبطل صومه. He says, however, if Fajr comes in and he's having intercourse with his wife and he knows that Fajr came in and then he stays continuing, then this will nullify his fast. And he says, لا يعلم فيه خلاف للعلماء. And he says, I don't know any difference of opinion from the scholars of al-Islam. And he says, according to the madhab of Imam al-Shafi'i, he has to do a kafara. And we spoke about the kafara, the penalty for having intercourse with your wife during the daytime in Ramadan. What is the penalty? Free a slave. If you can't free a slave, then you have to fast 2 months consecutively. And if you can't do that, you have to feed 60 people. And this is due to the hadith in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. It says, وعليه إذا كان المؤذن في يؤذن إذا طلع الفجر فليلزمك النزع عن الجماع. If the mu'adhin calls the adhan, then you must stop with having intercourse. فورا سماعك للتكبيرة الأولى من أذانه. Right away, as soon as you hear the first Allahu Akbar. And it says, وإن كنت تعلم أن المؤذن يؤذن قبل طلوع الفجر. This is not our case here where we live. We're not going to hear the adhan anyway. But if you happen to be in a Muslim country and you hear the adhan, you have to be able to distinguish between the first adhan and the second adhan. Anyway, that doesn't really fit our condition. And then lastly it says, إذا كنت جاهلا بهذا الحكم. If a person does not know the ruling on this, وتظن أن الإمساك إنما يلزم بآخر الأذان. And let's say a person doesn't know. They don't know. They think that, all right, he's having intercourse with his wife, and he thinks that you got the whole adhan, and once the adhan is over, then you stop, and they believe that this is the correct way. He says, فَلَا كَفَارَةَ عَلَيْكَ. This is the legend of Tadaiman. They say that then there's no penalty for that if a person doesn't know. لَكِنْ تَقْضِيَ الصِّيَامِ احْتِياطًا. That they should also make that fast up out of safety, out of fear that it didn't count for them. And they should make tawbah, istighfar. They should make repentance for the sin that they commit. And they should also learn the deen. That's why it's very important for us to take the time to learn our religion, learn the things that will help us get closer to Allah and help us understand His religion. And we're going to stop with that. Anyone have any questions? No, we didn't go over that hadith. That's the hadith he mentioned.
That's we ain't go over, but that's what he mentioned.
Yeah.
They kind of.
They don't. They need, I'm just giving you what the early man say about that situation of having intercourse.
But no, you also said that if there's food in your mouth, you're supposed to spit it out when you're dancing.
So okay.
But I thought another one is if you got something in your hand, then you finish it.
So where's that hadith? No, I didn't. No. This is what I'm saying. We didn't have the hadith in front of us to study it, to compare the two. Only thing I mentioned, we'll get to that. We may even cover that hadith. Only thing I mentioned was about the intercourse issue. Most people try to compare the two and make it to be the same. Here, Imam al-Nawawi said, if a person has food in his mouth and they call it then, he say spit it out. Some say, no, you don't have to spit it out. Right? According to Imam Nawawi, you spit it out. And he actually said you spit it out the same thing if a person's having intercourse. If he's having intercourse, you hear the adhan, you stop right away. Right? Me personally, I would tell a brother or a sister if they're fasting and they call it adhan, you have food in your mouth, don't eat no more food. I would say spit it out. Ihtiyatan, just to khuruj min al-khilaf, staying away from any difference of opinion. Some scholars say this, some scholars say this. All scholars say if you're eating and you stop eating, no one's going to say you're wrong for that. But you might find some people to say you're wrong for continuing to chew the food in your mouth. This here is how our scholars taught us. Khuruj min al-khilaf. The safest route is to stay away from differences of opinion. There's no, like for example, if I'm eating and they call the adhan, I'm going to finish chewing what I got in my mouth. I'm going to take my time and finish eating, and that's it. Or I'm going to continue chewing and then with the adhan. You may have some ulama say, sah, that's correct. It's for you to do that. And then you're going to have some ulama, like we just mentioned here, Imam Nawawi says, no, you can't do that. But you're not going to find any scholar that says, if the adhan is called and you just throw the food out your mouth, is your fast correct or incorrect? They're all going to say what? It's correct. Some people may say if you're still chewing with food in if you're still chewing with food in your mouth and they call it adhan, some scholars may say what? Your fast is what? It's invalid. That makes sense? Nobody's going to say your fast is invalid if you stop chewing when they call the adhan, though. What I'm saying, from my chair, being responsible for teaching Islamic information, whatever little bit I have, I want to tell people it's safe. I don't want to give you a loophole and say, yeah, some scholars say you could do that. So then you're chewing and eating, you know what I'm saying? Well, Brother Ali said I can continue. He used a hadith and that's what I'm right. So now you tell your kids, and then later on down the road, you found out it was wrong. I done taught a whole generation something incorrect. I could be dead and gone and I'm wearing that in my grave. I don't want to do that. So from my chair, I want to say what's safe. It's safer for you to just take the food out your mouth. Let somebody else tell you to keep chewing, not me. I'm just saying, let somebody else tell you to keep chewing. I'm telling you it's safer to spit the food out. If you have an intercourse, stop right away. That's safe for me to tell you. Thank you. Yes.
The 12. Was it a hadith you said you connected to that?
No. That was a statement of one of the ulama of the Salaf. His name was Abdul Qadir. And in his book, he has a book called Al-Ghaniyya. And he mentioned that in his book. Now, I don't know the reference to it and all. I'm just saying that was a position. No, Hani. She said 6. Hani said the Salat al-Duha was 6. Right? And she said that. And then Ibn Qayyim said that she prayed 6 raka'at because Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam prayed 6 raka'at shakran lillah, being showing gratitude to Allah for them opening up Mecca or conquering Mecca at that time. Was it 6?
He played 8 for opening up Mecca.
She said 6, didn't she? She said, I'm sorry, 8. I'm tripping.
So If they the 2 by 2.
Yeah, 2 by 2. We can get more into Salatul Duha when we cover that in the book of Salat, inshallah. It's a yes. Oh, we didn't talk about the witr prayer. Mumtaz, I'm sorry. Salatul witr. Mumtaz, I'm sorry. I don't know why I didn't mention that. Salatul witr is a salat when he said that Awtara fi kulli layl. So when he told when the Prophet ﷺ told Abu Huraira to pray Salatul witr, he told him to pray it after Salatul Isha. So Salatul witr is a prayer you can pray. It should be the last prayer a person prays in the night. So for example, after Salatul Isha, if you don't plan on getting up in the night prayers, pray Salatul witr. Salatul witr is an odd number prayer. It's an odd rak'ah. So for example, Salatul witr is only 1 rak'ah. So let's say, for example, you plan on going to sleep tonight and not getting up to Fajr, then you want to end your night with 1 rak'ah. This is Salatul witr. If you plan on getting up in the last third of the night and you pray, like the siyam, the fast of the salat of Abi Dawood, of Dawood alayhi salam, then you'll get up and you'll pray. You stand in prayer. Let's say you pray 20 rak'ah, 20, 30 rak'ah, for example. Before you go to sleep, you pray 1 rak'ah to end your night off. This is the witr. This is the witr prayer. 1 rak'ah represents the witr prayer. Jazakallah khairan. I'm glad she mentioned that. I totally forgot to mention that. But anything else? Yes.
Prayer of Dawood is, do you know the order of it?
What do you mean the order?
He would pray half of the night, then he would sleep, and then he would pray.
So Mumtaz, so he asked a question. Do we know the order of the Salatul Dawood, or the Salatul of the Prophet Dawood alayhi salam? The third of the night is always going to be what? No, the third of the night is always going to be the third of the night. And the last sudus of the night is always going to be the last part of the night. So the question there was the sleep in the half of the night. What time is that? Then that would depend on the night, and depend on the day, and depend on the time of year. But the third and the last part will never change.
The last third that he would pray, that's the last one.
It's always going to. So when we say the last third of the night, there's only one last third of the night.
So praying for the half.
You mean sleep in the half?
So sleep a half. No, it says right here. It says.
Oh, so then the sleeping wasn't half.
It says sleep is 6, and then it says he would pray half of the night.
I don't say half the night.
That's what I got.
Yanamu nusful layl. He will sleep half of the night. That's what it says on the hadith there? What number? What does it say?
But that's because he uses an analogy though. He didn't.
No, I don't know what y'all. Well, if it said that in your text, you guys should have told me. What does it say? What hadith number is that? What hadith number is that? Are you reading the English? Oh, so I didn't even read the English. It says, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam bi thalathin, siyam thalathat ayyam min kulli shahr. No, that's not it. Okay. It says, Inna habba siyam ila Dawood, siyam Dawood alayhi salam, wa habba salat ila Allah, wa salat Dawood, kana yanamu nisful layl. So it says right here. The Arabic says, kana yanamu nisful layl. So he would sleep for half of the night. Wa yaqumu thulutha. And he would stand for a third. Wa yanamu sudusa. And he would sleep for 1/6. What does it say in English? He would pray half the night and pray a third and sleep. Say the same thing. But it's not pray. This is a mistake. He would sleep half the night. This is a mistake. Jazakallah khair. You guys should have stopped me. When I was going through the hadith, you should have stopped me and said, say something different. So anybody looking at the translation of the hadith number 19, it says he would pray half the night. This is a mistake. It was he would sleep half of the night, not pray half of the night. Jazakallah khair. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yes. Yeah. So he would sleep half of the night, pray a third of the night, and sleep a sixth of the night. So anyone that's hadith number 19, if you printed it from medina.com, on the Ahkam, the English, it says he would pray, but it's really he would sleep. This is a mistake. He would sleep half of the night. That makes sense. Jazakallah khair. You should have stopped me then. Now, he had the paper.
They don't have the Arabic for this, so
Ah.
I was like, all right. I kept thinking about it. So sleep half of the night, continue sleeping for a sixth, and then just wake up for the last third, and that's the.
It makes sense. That's it. Alhamdulillah. That's why you asked you to order. I'm like, what are you talking about? There's only one last third of the night. Like, any questions? Jazakumullahu khairan. We're going to start with that, and then we'll pick up again tomorrow. Can y'all go all week? Huh? That's what I'm saying. We're trying to knock this out for Ramadan, inshallah. طيب خلاص. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.